Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I wanted to share how I made this Yoshi card. Obviously Yoshi is owned by Nintendo and there's no copyright infringement or whatever, and it could just be a dragon too if that's better for you. But I wanted to make a thematic card to go with a gift I was giving, and so I wanted to try to recreate a video game character. So I'm going to show you how I was able to create it using some circle and oval dies from Cat Scrappiness. Those were the main things that I used on this card. So I have the oval dies from Cat Scrappiness, and I used a few of them. I started with the three smallest ones that go in the center here, and those make the eyes. So you layer them up in a green, a white, and a black to make an eye. And you'll need two sets of them for both eyes, obviously. Then I went two more out, and I created a sort of like the cheeks of him. So you see there's that white oval that creates the cheeks. So those are what I needed in terms of the oval dies. Then I went for the circle dies. For the card, I used the very biggest circle, and then I went one more in. So I skipped one and went to the next one, and that's what I used for the large red piece, just to create a little bit of contrast and bring in some Christmas colors. So I needed those two large ones, and then I needed one for the snout. And that here is, if you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out, you'll get the snout size piece that I chose. My card is about 5.5 by 5.5 because it's the size of the largest circle. I found that I could not go much smaller just because I ran out of oval dies, because I used the very smallest one to get the black part of the eye. And so I kind of let the size of the eyes dictate all of my other choices because those were the small ones. And then I also used this word bubble die. It happens to be from the Fawn set. Looks like this. A birdie told me, and I really like these dies, not so much because it's hard to cut these out, it's not, but you can use them as speech bubble dies outside of using the set. So I want to show you how I was able to assemble it and add in some tips and tricks and talk about how I made the circle card as well. So to get started, I have the base. I have the snout that I want to put on top of the cheeks. I'm going to use my Scotch tape gun for most of it, but I also find that multi-medium matte is helpful for gluing down the smaller bits. But whatever your favorite adhesive is will work. When you're gluing down the eyes, what I found worked was gluing the white part in the center of the green. And when I die cut all of these out, I die cut, oh, I put the adhesive on the wrong side. Hopefully I can save that. Not that it really matters, but you know, there's a slight indent when you die cut. So what's nice is the Scotch tape, if you work quickly, you can kind of just rub it off, especially if you're working with good quality cardstock. I have, this is all 110-pound thick cardstock. And I'm using the Recollections 110-pound for the white. It's just what I use in terms of white because I can buy it in such bulk. But the green cardstock, I honestly can't say where it's from. It's just a piece that I had on hand. I don't have a lot of colored cardstock, so I was pretty happy to be able to find a green. So there's the eyes, and now when you position the black part of the eye, if you look at my inspiration, his eyes kind of come down a bit. So you don't want to glue this perfectly in the center. That won't quite look right compared to the original character. You can, it's not a big deal, but just pulling it down tends to work a bit better. So as I assemble it, I'm going to glue the eyes a little bit further down, and it won't really matter that this is hanging off weird because of course that's going to be going behind the snout. And now these, I want to glue them pretty even. If you have punches, I've seen that people do video game characters and other characters with punches. I just find punches take up a lot of room, so I'm not a big fan of punches, but I thought these really basic dies from Cat Scrappiness are perfect, and especially if you look at the price point for the amount of dies you get, you're going to definitely find these useful. So I have just a piece of scrap paper that I've die cut other elements from, and to create the little whites of the eyes, I'm just going to do a regular hole punch. Nothing fancy at all. 99 cents from the grocery store, I think. And I'll glue those down with the multimedia mat. Dries clear when it leaks out the edges, but I am going to try. Oh, my bottle is clogged. That's always such a bummer. It's my fault because I left it open. You really need to put the cap back on right away, and I have a really bad habit of not putting my cap back on, but I do keep needles in a drawer on my desk to kind of help remove some of that. Although I'm having a hard time getting them out, and I'm wondering if it's because they're all full of glue. Because I do this all the time. I forget to clear out my bottle. I find also like sometimes just squeezing really hard off to the side can kind of like push out whatever's in there. But okay, there we go. And that should loosen it all up. Again, you're just going to want to go off to the side as you make sure that your bottle is running clear and it's not going to like explode all over your project. So now that I've done that off to the side, I can add 2 little dots of glue to the very top. This will create the illusion of the character looking up. Okay, then I can glue the eyes down to the snout. I'm going to glue them in the back, of course, and I'm going to cause them to overlap a little bit just because I think that looks a little bit more authentic. So I'm going to choose to add the adhesive actually to the snout part. And sorry, I'm just like looking at it. I feel like my eyes are not perfectly even, but you know, that's going to be the thing when you make something handmade. It's not going to be perfect, and I need to acknowledge that. All right, so I kind of like where those eyes are placed, and then I can stick the snout down. Now the other small detail is the little nostrils, and these I could not find a punch or something that I thought would work well, and I had to fussy cut them out. So one thing that I did to try to make things easier is I taped 2 pieces of scrap black cardstock together so that when I cut one, I would wind up with 2. And at least if one turned out well, I wouldn't have to try to recreate it. So I'm going to fix that up, smooth it out a bit, and then try to just cut some small nostrils. Nothing super precise here, just a little curve on each one. And looking at a reference, I think they make more sense to be facing out like this. So that's how I'm going to glue those down. And then I wanted to talk about quickly how I created this circle card. So I started with a piece of 5 3/4 by 11 cardstock, and I'm going to score that at 5 1/2. So I take the 11 length side, and I'm going to come down and score that in half. Then I'm going to take my circle die, my largest circle die from the set, that's the same size as my piece of green paper. Now the green paper is from just like a random stash paper pad. I don't know, it's an American Crafts pad, but I don't know that it's really available. Any sort of Christmassy paper will do. There's nothing special about it. And I cut the green circle to be the largest circle so that it will cover completely the card base, and then the red circle a bit smaller, but you might notice I cut some smaller circles out of them. And that's just because then I have a little piece to work with when I'm creating, rather than wasting all that paper. You certainly can, it's not that big a deal, it's not that much paper, but you know, now I have a little green piece and a little red piece, and maybe I can make a second different kind of card with it. All right, so I'm going to be back in a minute. So I cut it out when the die was hanging off just a bit so that the top is still connected. And that allows me to create the look of a circle card. But if you don't want this part to show, that's why I'm personally choosing to use the pattern paper over it and make the pattern paper the same exact size. And I'm also going to cut a small slit at the bottom to make sure that it can stand up. So I'll show you that on this other finished card. There's just that small cut there at the bottom. I recommend waiting until you've glued everything down to create this cut, just so that you know that your critter will be perfectly straight when the card stands up. You know, I know you can't really see that here on the camera, but you don't want it to look like he's crooked or off to the side. And so I'm not going to show you all the gluing. I want to keep this more simple and straightforward. I just wanted to say that I'm going to stamp this Merry Christmas. It's from an Impression Obsession stamp set, I believe. These tiny little words. I don't know if this is still available, but finding a tiny little word set like this definitely comes in handy. I'll try to leave a link and find something in the video description for you. But I just popped all of my elements up on some foam tape, and I stamped the Merry Christmas in VersaFine Onyx Black ink just because it gives a great impression the first time, every time, and it looks like the little character is saying Merry Christmas. Alright, so that's going to be basically it for the tutorial. Again, you don't need to, I've already shown you way too much gluing today, but I just thought it might be fun if you wanted to try to recreate a similar character. Like I said, I think this could be adapted to just kind of look like a dragon if you have somebody who would appreciate that unique card. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, be sure to subscribe to my channel and check out some of the links in the video description below to pick up these dies if you're interested, or to follow me over on Instagram. And I will see you next time. Bye!